Hey, what's going on, guys? Max Greenberg here again, talking about assignment number 5. For chapter 4, media organizations and professionals, I focused on page 114 at first. It says working with economic constraints. That goes for a lot of things within media. If you go over budget with a movie or something like that, then it's a huge deal and you can't make your money back. And then I looked at 116 and it says decision making for profit, imitation, hits, and stars. There's one thing in here. It says while the details of these decision making processes are different across media industries, individuals working in media fields almost all have to contend with two basic problems: the high cost of producing media and the unpredictability of audience tastes. Um, so they could think a movie is going to be like really, really good, and it's going to get no views. It's going to make no money in the box office as much as they think that it's going to make while they're making it. The amount of money that they spend in a movie is can be very high, especially with the actors that they get, which they talk about right on page 121. Um, it's just the fact that like if you do like you have a really great idea, and you don't use the right actors, then the whole movie could be a total bust. For example, the movie Step Brothers. If you didn't use John C. Riley and Will Ferrell in that movie, the two comedians, the two people that probably had the most chemistry in that movie to get along, making such a funny movie like that, I don't think it would be that great of a movie. Also, like it, for example, it posts up a poster of Johnny Depp playing a well-known role from a classic hit, The Lone Ranger. It's a Disney movie. It has Armie Hammer in it too. I don't know who that is. But The Lone Ranger is I think it's a remake of something like that. Um, However, it's not certain that employing stars can reduce risk. 2013's The Lone Ranger was a massive failure at the box office. So like, it doesn't really matter. Like I just said, like exactly who you cast in your movie because you really don't know what's gonna happen. But definitely, if like the Avatar movies, that was a huge hit, and I'm sure they thought about who they wanted to cast. The Hunger Games, I'm sure they thought about who they wanted to cast in those movies. Titanic, I'm sure they thought about who they wanted to cast in those movies, and like high class A-listers. They didn't just like hold auditions and have them uh, pick from audition types. Um, and for chapter 9, media and technology, everything in media is technology based nowadays. Everything. Our president of the United States uses Twitter every day. So, I mean, I use Facebook, I use Instagram, I use Twitter. Um, that's about it. But also, like, thinking about before all this, the first, like, televised presidential debate, I think, was JFK versus Nixon. And before that, it was just all based off radio. And during that whole time, Nixon was really sweaty and JFK was really relaxed, and I think that's what won him the election. Um, but if Nixon wasn't so sweaty, and he was just as relaxed, do you think Nixon would have won? Also, if you think about it, if it was just on the radio, Nixon was you could have thought, and people, voters at that time, could have thought that Nixon was the more well-spoken candidate at that time, and voted for him, and he could have won the presidency at that time just because he didn't. Nobody could see his non-cool complexion in that time. Um, there was a funny thing that I like giggled about when I saw this in the book. Um, it said something about the Pope having a Twitter where he addresses his followers. Um, Pontifex, it's on page 320 of the book. The Pope has a Twitter. Like, that's what I'm saying about like everything has influence on a media relation nowadays. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks.